Hi everyone, thank you for coming or for coming back. My name is Jillian, also known as Jillian Jukes, and today I'm going to show you how to make cinnamon rolls. Now this recipe is one of my favorites. It is so good and so easy. It's really surprising how easy it is to make super fluffy, amazing cinnamon rolls, and all you need is just one little trick, and I'm going to show you what that is. So we are going to start by blooming our yeast. So you're going to need some milk that is just a little bit warmer than room temperature. What you want to do is stick your finger in it and it should feel just a little bit warm, not hot or anything, just warm to the touch. Into that you're going to add your yeast and just a small spoonful of sugar. Go ahead and give that a stir and then set it aside for 5 to 10 minutes until it gets a little bit active. Now, if you're using instant yeast like me, then this part isn't really necessary. I do like to do it because I feel like it jumpstarts the rising process just a little bit because it's taking the yeast out of the fridge after its long cold fridge nap and putting it into some nice warm milk. So it speeds up the process, but only a little bit. The only time I would really recommend that you do this is if you don't know if your yeast is old or not, because if you mix your whole dough and then you realize it's not rising because your yeast is dead, you'll have to throw out your dough, versus if you bloom your yeast and it doesn't rise, you'll only have to throw out a little bit of milk. So when you come back in 5 to 10 minutes, your yeast should look nice and foamy. There should be some bubbles on the surface, and if you smell it, it'll smell a little bit like fresh bread or a little bit like beer. Now at this point we're ready to mix, and we're just going to throw all the rest of our ingredients into our mixer along with our milky yeast solution. So I do find with my mixer that it mixes a lot better for whatever reason when I put the liquid ingredients on the bottom, so that's how I'm going to do it, but feel free to just throw it all in whatever order you feel like. If you don't have a stand mixer, then this recipe is perfect for you because this dough is really nice and soft, so it's really easy to just mix by hand. So this is just going to knead for about 5 minutes, and at that point you can take it out, round it up into a nice ball, and then let it rise back in the bowl covered. Now you can let this rise for 2 to 2.5 hours at room temperature or a little bit warmer than room temperature if you can manage. But if you have a lot of time because you're planning ahead, I do recommend that you try letting this rise in the fridge for 12 hours. I find that giving it the long rest just develops the flavor a little bit more, so you get just a more interesting flavor to your cinnamon roll dough. But if you just want to leave it for 2 hours, that's perfectly fine. It'll end up just fine. Now, after your dough has risen all the way, either at room temperature in the fridge, you're going to go ahead and mix up your filling. Now, the filling here is the secret to getting really nice, soft, fluffy cinnamon rolls. It's not the dough at all, it's all about how you do your filling. Now, there is generally 2 ways that you can put the filling in your cinnamon rolls. The one that I find more common in cookbooks is that they recommend to melt or soften your butter, then spread it on your cinnamon roll, and then cover it with cinnamon sugar. I found that this is not a great way to do it, so you're going to do it my way. Now, my way is that you're going to take your cinnamon and your sugar and you're going to mix it in with your butter to form a nice thick paste. Now, the reason I say that this is the right way is because when you put sugar anywhere, it's going to try and draw out the moisture. So if your sugar is touching your dough when you roll up your cinnamon rolls, then it's going to draw the moisture out of your dough and you're going to end up with a drier cinnamon bun. Now, if you do this by combining it all with the butter, then it's sort of like a butter jail that you've put your sugar in, and the moisture from your dough can't get through that because fat repels water. So what you're going to do is you're going to mix all your things together, and it's going to save your dough from drying out. Once you've got your filling all mixed up, you can go ahead and go back to your dough, and we're going to roll this out. I like to roll it to about 1 centimeter thickness and generally about twice as long as it is wide, but it's not super important, so don't worry about that at all. Now we are going to take our filling and spread it into a nice thin layer on our dough. Now we are going to roll it up into a nice tight log, starting on our long side. I like to cut off the ends here just because they're a little bit scraggly, but don't throw those out. You can put them in separate dishes, still bake them off, and they will still be a great snack. With the rest of the log, I like to go back through and just mark little guesses first, dividers I suppose, of where I'm going to have to cut this. For this batch, I was doing 12 cinnamon rolls, so for example, I marked halfway to make 6, and then halfway 2 more times, and that was 3, so that I could cut it all up without being too inaccurate and having a big old cinnamon roll left at the end. Now these are going to go into a pan, and what I like to do, but you don't really have to do this, is that once they're all in the pan, I like to sort of squish them down so that they're all an even height. I find that I'll generally end up with a tall, skinny cinnamon roll, and I just like to smush it down so that they're all on an even playing field. Now this whole thing is going to go into a warm spot, covered to rise for about an hour. Now if you had your dough in the fridge, it's not going to rise quite as dramatically as it would if you were rising at room temperature, and that's just because it's cold, so it's going a little bit slower. But don't worry at all. Once an hour is up, you can go ahead and take your cinnamon rolls, put them directly into a 375-degree oven. They're going to stay there for about 35 to 45 minutes. What you want to see when you take them out is that they are nice and golden brown, and I would pay special attention to the edges between cinnamon rolls because I find that's the part that cooks last. Now when you take these out, I find that the centers always sort of pop up no matter what I do, so I like to just press those back in with a spoon or with my fingers or whatever you're feeling, and then you can go ahead and run a knife around the edges of the pan just to make sure they'll pop out, and then invert the whole pan onto a plate or a tray or whatever you have. Now optionally you can top these with an icing or a glaze or anything you like. I'll put the ingredients for the powdered sugar glaze that I'm using here down below so you can try that if you like. But these are otherwise done. These are your beautiful cinnamon rolls. These are so nice, so soft, and so just beautiful. I really love this recipe. These cinnamon rolls are so nice, so soft, and so fluffy. I hope you make these and I hope you enjoy. I'll see you next time.